I still remember the moment my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. It was a Tuesday morning in March when I was scrolling through Facebook, sipping my coffee like any other day, when I saw my daughter Emma in a stunning white dress, radiant and glowing, standing next to her boyfriend Marcus in what was clearly a wedding ceremony. The caption from my niece Sarah read, "Congratulations to the beautiful bride and groom. What a perfect ceremony yesterday." Yesterday. The word hit me like a physical blow. My own daughter had gotten married yesterday, and I, her mother, the woman who had given birth to her, raised her, sacrificed everything for her, hadn't even known it was happening. I sat there staring at that photo, my coffee growing cold in my trembling hands, wondering how we had gotten to this point. How had the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms and beg me to help her plan elaborate pretend weddings with her dolls become someone who could exclude me from the most important day of her life? The betrayal cut deeper than any pain I'd ever experienced. This wasn't just about missing a party or being left out of family dinner. This was about being erased from one of life's most sacred moments, being deemed unworthy of witnessing my own child's commitment to another human being. As I stared at that picture, seeing Emma's face filled with joy I hadn't been allowed to share, I felt something inside me break that I wasn't sure could ever be repaired. But alongside the heartbreak, something else began to burn in my chest. A fierce determination that this story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. You have to understand, Emma wasn't always like this. There was a time when we were incredibly close, when I was her best friend and confidant. I raised her as a single mother after her father walked out when she was just 3 years old. It was just the two of us against the world, and we made it work. I worked double shifts at the diner, came home exhausted but always made time to help with homework, to listen to her problems, to be present for every school play, every soccer game, every milestone that mattered. I sacrificed everything for that girl. When she wanted to take piano lessons, I picked up weekend shifts to pay for them, even though it meant I barely had time to sleep. When she dreamed of going to college, I worked 3 jobs and took out loans I'm still paying off at 62 years old. When she wanted to study abroad for a semester, I sold my mother's jewelry. The only thing of value I had left, to make it happen. Every decision I made for 25 years was about giving Emma the best life possible. And for the longest time she appreciated it. She would thank me, tell me I was the best mom in the world, promise that she'd take care of me when she got older. She'd talk about her future wedding and how I'd help her plan it, how we'd go dress shopping together, how she wanted me to walk her down the aisle since her father wasn't in the picture. Those conversations were some of my happiest memories. In my mind, her wedding day would be our day too. A celebration of everything we'd built together. The distance started when she went to college. First I understood. She was spreading her wings, finding herself, becoming independent. The daily phone calls became weekly, then monthly. When she graduated and moved to the city for her job, the visits home became less frequent. She'd come for Christmas and maybe Easter if I was lucky. But even then she seemed different. Distracted. Like she was enduring family time rather than enjoying it. When she started dating Marcus 3 years ago, things got worse. Not because I didn't like him. I barely knew him. She'd brought him home exactly twice in 3 years, and both times he'd been polite but distant. He'd answer my questions with short responses, never asking me anything about myself, never showing any interest in getting to know the woman who had raised the love of his life. Emma would get tense whenever I tried to engage with him, shooting me looks that clearly said, "Back off." I started to feel like I was being managed, like Emma was carefully controlling how much access I had to her life. Phone calls became even less frequent. When I'd call her, she'd sound rushed, distracted, always having to go somewhere or do something. Plans to visit would get canceled at the last minute. She stopped mentioning Marcus altogether, which I found strange for someone who was supposed to be in a serious relationship. The warning signs were all there. But I chose to ignore them because I couldn't bear to face the reality of what was happening. My relationship with my daughter was dying, and I was helpless to stop it. Last year, when she turned 25, I threw her a surprise birthday party. I invited all her old friends from high school, decorated my house with all her favorite colors, made her favorite cake from scratch. The same recipe I'd used for every birthday since she was 4. I was so excited, so proud of myself for pulling it together. When she walked in and saw everyone there, the look on her face wasn't joy or surprise. It was horror. Pure, undiluted horror. She pulled me aside and whispered harshly, "Mom, you can't just ambush people like this. I'm not a child anymore." She stayed for exactly 1 hour, made polite conversation with her old friends who had taken time out of their busy lives to come celebrate her, and then left with some excuse about having other plans. I spent the rest of that evening watching her childhood friends eat cake and make awkward small talk while I tried not to cry. That's when I realized that somewhere along the way, I had become an embarrassment to her. The mother who worked at a diner, who lived in a modest house in a working-class neighborhood, who didn't have a college degree or a prestigious career. The mother who had sacrificed everything but couldn't offer her the kind of sophisticated life she now lived in the city. I wasn't the kind of mother you proudly showed off to your new boyfriend's family or your colleagues. I was the kind of mother you kept at arm's length, managed carefully, and included only when absolutely necessary. The realization was devastating, but I told myself that things would change. That when she was ready to get married, when she needed her mother's support and love, she'd come back to me. That her wedding day would bridge whatever gap had grown between us. I was so naive. The first hint that something was seriously wrong came about 6 months ago, when Emma mentioned in passing during one of our increasingly rare phone calls that she and Marcus were talking about next steps. I got excited, started asking questions about whether he'd proposed, whether they were thinking about timing, whether she'd want help planning. She shut me down immediately. "Mom, we're just talking. Don't make a big deal out of everything." But I could hear it in her voice. Something was already decided. They weren't just talking. Plans were being made, and I wasn't part of them. Over the following months, I tried to bring up the topic casually, ask if there was anything exciting happening in her life, whether she had any news to share. The responses became shorter and more evasive. "Nothing new, Mom. Just work stuff. Everything's fine, just busy." Then the phone calls stopped altogether. I started calling her instead of waiting for her to call me, but she rarely answered. When she did, she sounded rushed, distracted, always having to go. I'd leave voicemails, cheerful, loving messages asking how she was, saying I missed her, hoping to hear from her soon. Most went unreturned. The silence stretched on for weeks. I told myself she was just busy, that adult life was demanding, that she'd reach out when she had time. But deep down I knew something was wrong. You don't just stop talking to your mother unless something is seriously wrong. I started reaching out to other family members, trying to get information without seeming desperate or pathetic. I'd call my sister Linda and casually ask if she'd heard from Emma lately. I'd message my niece Sarah asking how everyone was doing. Most of them hadn't heard from her either, but they didn't seem as concerned as I was. "You know how busy young people are these days," they'd say. "She'll call when she has time." But I was her mother. I could feel in my bones that something significant was happening, and I was being deliberately excluded from it. The Tuesday morning when I saw that wedding photo, everything finally made sense. All the evasive answers, the canceled plans, the sudden distance. It had all been leading to this moment. Emma hadn't just been busy or distracted. She'd been planning a wedding and had made the conscious decision not to include me in it. As I sat there staring at the photo, I noticed details that made the betrayal even worse. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment elopement or courthouse ceremony. Emma was wearing an elaborate wedding dress, clearly expensive, clearly chosen with care. The setting looked like it was at a beautiful venue, with professional flowers and decorations. Marcus was in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. This was a real wedding, a planned celebration, something that had taken months to organize. And I had been deliberately, systematically excluded from every single aspect of it. I started scrolling through the comments on Sarah's post, looking for more clues, more information about what had happened. That's when I saw that other family members had been there. My sister Linda had commented, "Beautiful ceremony. So happy for you both." My cousin Mike had posted, "Great party. Thanks for including us." Other family members had been invited. They had been part of this celebration. They had witnessed my daughter's wedding, had been welcomed into this moment of joy and celebration. But not me. Not her mother. The systematic nature of my exclusion became clear. This wasn't an oversight or a mistake. Emma had gone through the guest list and made a conscious decision about who to include and who to leave out. She had invited extended family, friends, probably Marcus's family and friends. She had planned flowers and food and music and decorations. She had chosen a venue and sent out invitations and organized all the details that go into a wedding celebration. And through every single one of those decisions, she had chosen not to include me. I called Emma's number immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail again. On the third try, she finally picked up. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was flat, resigned, like she'd been dreading this call. "Emma." I could barely get her name out. "Emma. I just saw Sarah's post on Facebook." There was a long pause. Then, oh. I couldn't keep the hurt and anger out of my voice. "That's all you have to say?" "Oh. Mom, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain how you planned an entire wedding without telling your mother? Explain how you invited other family members but not the woman who raised you. Explain how you could stand there in that white dress, on the most important day of your life, and not feel even a moment of sadness that I wasn't there." She was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice had that carefully controlled tone she used when she was trying to manage me. "Mom, we wanted to keep things small and simple. It was just immediate family and a few close friends. Linda was there. Mike was there. Sarah was there taking pictures. How is that just immediate family?" Another pause. "It's complicated, Mom." "Complicated how? What's complicated about inviting your mother to your wedding?" I heard her take a deep breath, and when she spoke again, I could hear the irritation creeping into her voice. "Because I knew you'd make it about you. I knew you'd want to take over the planning, make suggestions, get emotional about everything. Marcus and I wanted our day to be calm and peaceful, without any drama or complications." The words hit me like a slap in the face. Drama? Complications? Is that what a mother's love had become to her? "Emma, I would never." "Mom, you threw me a surprise birthday party last year that I specifically told you I didn't want. You call me constantly, leave long voicemails when I don't answer immediately, ask me personal questions about my relationship that I don't want to discuss. You've never respected my boundaries or my privacy. Marcus's family is very different from ours. They're more reserved. I didn't want to have to worry about managing the situation. Managing the situation. That's what I had become to my daughter. A situation to be managed. So you decided it was easier to just exclude me entirely. I decided it was easier to avoid potential conflict on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life." The coldness in her voice broke something inside me. This wasn't the daughter I had raised, the little girl who used to tell me she loved me every night before bed, who used to plan elaborate Mother's Day celebrations and make me homemade cards telling me I was the best mom in the world. "Do you have any idea what this feels like?" I whispered. "Do you have any concept of what it's like to find out through a Facebook post that your daughter got married?" "Mom, I'm sorry you found out that way. I was going to tell you." "When? When were you going to tell me? After the honeymoon? After your first anniversary? When exactly did you plan to mention that you'd gotten married?" She didn't have an answer for that. I hung up the phone and sat in my quiet house, surrounded by pictures of Emma at every stage of her life. Baby photos, school pictures, graduation photos. All evidence of a relationship that had apparently been an illusion. All those years when I thought we were building something beautiful together, she had apparently been enduring my presence, tolerating my love, waiting for the day when she could finally be free of me. But as I sat there in that silence, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life, something started to shift inside me. The hurt and betrayal were still there, but underneath them, something else was growing. A cold, clear anger. A determination that this story wasn't over. Emma thought she could just erase me from her life, write me out of her story like I didn't matter. She thought she could take everything I had given her. All my love, all my sacrifice, all those years of putting her needs before my own, and just discard me when I became inconvenient. She was wrong. I might not have been invited to her wedding, but that didn't mean I couldn't attend. I spent the rest of that day doing research. Social media had given me more information than Emma probably realized. From the photos, I could tell the reception was being held at the Grandview Country Club, an upscale venue about an hour from my house. The timestamp on the photo showed the ceremony had been at 4 p.m. yesterday, which meant the reception had probably started around 6 and could still be going on. My hands were shaking as I called the country club. Grandview Country Club, this is Rebecca speaking. Hi, I'm calling about the Turner-Williams wedding reception. I believe it's happening today. Oh yes, that's one of our events today. How can I help you? I'm wondering what time the reception ends. I'm trying to coordinate my arrival. The reception is scheduled until 11 p.m. tonight. Would you like me to connect you to our event coordinator? No, that's perfect. Thank you. It was 3 p.m. The reception had been going for about 5 hours and still had 4 hours left. If I left now, I could be there by 4:30. I hung up the phone and sat there for a moment, my heart pounding. What was I doing? Was I really about to crash my daughter's wedding reception? Was I really about to show up uninvited to what she had specifically excluded me from? Yes, I was. I went upstairs and opened my closet, looking for something appropriate to wear to a wedding reception. I had exactly one dress that would work. A navy blue dress I'd bought for Emma's college graduation. Still fit, still looked nice. I put it on, did my hair, applied makeup carefully. If I was going to do this, I was going to look dignified. As I got ready, I thought about what I wanted to accomplish. I wasn't going there to cause a scene or ruin Emma's day. I wasn't going to scream or cry or make a spectacle of myself. I was going there to remind my daughter that she had a mother, that I existed, that I mattered. I was going there to reclaim my place in her life, even if she didn't want to give it to me. The drive to the country club felt both endless and too short. My mind raced through different scenarios of what might happen when I arrived. Would Emma be furious? Would Marcus's family be horrified? Would security ask me to leave? I didn't care. For 25 years, I had put Emma's needs and feelings before my own. I had sacrificed and compromised and accommodated her at every turn. Today, for the first time in my adult life, I was going to do something entirely for myself. The Grandview Country Club was everything I had expected: elegant, expensive, the kind of place where people like Marcus's family probably felt right at home. I parked my 15-year-old Honda between a BMW and a Mercedes and walked toward the entrance, my head held high. The lobby was beautiful: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, fresh flowers everywhere. I could hear music and laughter coming from one of the ballrooms. A young woman in a black dress approached me. Good evening. Are you here for the Turner-Williams reception? Yes, I am. She smiled and gestured toward the ballroom. Right this way. They're just finishing dinner and getting ready for the dance portion of the evening. I followed her down a carpeted hallway, my heart pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. We rounded a corner, and suddenly I was standing in the doorway of the ballroom, looking at my daughter's wedding reception. It was beautiful. Truly beautiful. Round tables covered in white linens, centerpieces of white roses and baby's breath, string lights draped from the ceiling creating a magical atmosphere. There had to be at least 100 people there. Far more than the small and simple celebration Emma had described. And there at the head table was Emma. She was still in her wedding dress, laughing at something Marcus was saying, looking radiant and happy and completely unaware that her mother was standing in the doorway. I took a deep breath and walked into the room. First, no one noticed me. I made my way slowly between the tables, taking in the scene. I recognized some faces: my sister Linda at a table near the back, my cousin Mike and his wife, a few of Emma's friends from high school. They all looked comfortable, relaxed, like they belonged there. I kept walking toward the front of the room, toward Emma's table. It wasn't until I was about halfway there that someone noticed me. Dorothy. It was Linda's voice, shocked and confused. Dorothy, what are you doing here? Her voice carried across the room, and suddenly several people were looking in my direction. The conversations around me started to quiet down as people noticed the disruption. I kept walking. Emma looked up from her conversation with Marcus, probably wondering what had caused the sudden change in atmosphere. When her eyes met mine across the room, the smile disappeared from her face instantly. I watched the color drain from her cheeks, watched her mouth fall open in shock and horror. Mom! The word came out as barely a whisper, but in the suddenly quiet room, everyone heard it. I walked up to the head table, my heart pounding but my head held high. Emma was frozen in her chair, staring at me like I was a ghost. Marcus looked confused, glancing between Emma and me like he was trying to figure out what was happening. Hello, sweetheart, I said, my voice calm and steady despite the tornado of emotion swirling inside me. You look beautiful. The entire room was silent now. 100 people watching this unexpected drama unfold. I could feel their eyes on me, could sense their confusion and curiosity and discomfort. Emma finally found her voice. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I came to see my daughter get married," I said simply. "Since I wasn't invited, I thought I'd surprise you." I heard someone gasp. Murmurs started rippling through the crowd as people began to understand what was happening. The mother of the bride had not been invited to the wedding. Marcus finally spoke up. "Mrs. Turner, perhaps we should." I turned to look at him. This man my daughter had chosen to spend her life with. This man whose family had been welcomed into this celebration while I had been excluded. "It's nice to see you again, Marcus. Congratulations." My voice was perfectly polite, perfectly controlled. He looked uncomfortable, clearly unsure how to handle the situation. "Thank you. Perhaps we should step outside and—" "No." The word came out sharper than I intended. "I'm not being escorted out like some kind of troublemaker. I'm Emma's mother. I have every right to be here." Emma finally stood up. Her face flushed with embarrassment and anger. "Mom, you can't just show up here uninvited. This is my wedding reception." "Yes, it is. Your wedding reception that you planned and executed without telling your mother. Your wedding reception where you invited extended family and high school friends, but couldn't find room for the woman who raised you." The murmurs in the crowd were getting louder. I could hear fragments of conversations. "She wasn't invited? That's her mother? How could she not invite her own mother?" Emma's voice was strained, trying to keep things calm while clearly panicking. "Mom, we talked about this." I explained. "You explained that I was too embarrassing for your new life. You explained that I was a complication you didn't want to deal with. You explained that Marcus's family is too refined to have to meet the woman who worked 3 jobs to put you through college." The room was completely silent now except for my voice. Everyone was listening, watching this family drama unfold in real time. "That's not," Emma started, then stopped, realizing that anything she said would only make things worse. I looked around the beautiful ballroom, taking in all the details Emma had spent months planning without me. "This is lovely, Emma. Really. You've done a beautiful job. I can see why you didn't think I'd fit in." "Mom, please don't do this here." "Do what?" "Express how proud I am of you. Tell you how beautiful you look. Congratulate you on finding someone who makes you happy." My voice was getting stronger, more emotional. "Because that's all I wanted to do, Emma. I just wanted to be here for you." Tears started forming in my eyes, but I didn't wipe them away. Let everyone see. Let them see what this exclusion had cost. I wanted to help you pick out your dress. I wanted to give you something borrowed, something blue. I wanted to walk you down the aisle since your father couldn't be here. I wanted to dance with you to our song, the one I used to sing to you when you were little and couldn't sleep. Emma's own eyes were filling with tears now, but I wasn't sure if they were tears of guilt or just embarrassment at having this conversation in front of everyone. "I wanted to give a toast at your reception, telling everyone how proud I am of the woman you've become, how grateful I am for every day I got to be your mother, how excited I am to welcome Marcus into our family." I turned to look at Marcus, who was sitting frozen in his chair, clearly wishing he could disappear. "I wanted to tell your new husband about the little girl who used to plan elaborate weddings for her stuffed animals, who made me promise I'd be the one to help her get ready on her real wedding day, who used to tell me that her wedding would be our special day together." The silence in the room was deafening. I could see people at the back tables leaning forward, straining to hear every word. But instead, I found out about your marriage from a Facebook post. I found out that my only daughter, the child I raised alone, the person I loved more than my own life, had decided I wasn't worth including in the most important moment of her life. Emma was crying openly now, mascara starting to smudge under her eyes. "Mom, I'm not here to ruin your day, sweetheart. I'm here because I love you. Because even though you've made it clear that I'm not the kind of mother you want to claim anymore, you're still the daughter I would do anything for." I reached into my purse and pulled out a small wrapped box, something I'd grabbed on my way out of the house. "This was my mother's. Your grandmother's. I've been saving it for your wedding day since you were a little girl." I placed the box on the table in front of her. Emma stared at it like it might explode. "It's her wedding ring. The one she wore for 53 years until the day she died." She made me promise I'd give it to you when you got married. She said it would bring you the same happiness and love she had with your grandfather. Emma's hands were shaking as she reached for the box, but she didn't open it. I know I'm not the mother you wanted here today. I know I don't fit into this world you've built. This sophisticated life with Marcus and his family and your successful career, and your beautiful friends. I know that a woman who works at a diner and lives in a small house and never went to college isn't the kind of mother you want to show off. The words were coming out in a rush now. Everything I'd been holding inside for months finally spilling out. But I'm the mother you have. I'm the mother who sat up with you all night when you had pneumonia when you were 7. I'm the mother who worked double shifts to pay for your piano lessons, who sold my jewelry to send you to Europe, who took out loans I'm still paying off to make sure you could go to college without worrying about money. People in the crowd were shifting uncomfortably, probably wishing they were anywhere else but witnessing this raw family confrontation. I'm the mother who cheered at every soccer game, who helped with every school project, who drove you to every friend's house and every extracurricular activity. I'm the mother who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, who supported your dreams even when they took you far away from me. Emma was sobbing now, her carefully applied makeup completely ruined, her perfect wedding day moment shattered. And I'm the mother who loves you enough to stand here in front of all these people, knowing that I'm embarrassing you, knowing that you wish I would just disappear, because I couldn't let this day pass without telling you how proud I am of you. I reached out and touched her cheek gently, the way I used to when she was little and upset about something. You are the most beautiful bride I have ever seen. You are brilliant and accomplished and strong, and I am so grateful that I got to be the one to raise you, even if you're not grateful that I'm the one who did it. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Emma was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read: shock, guilt, anger, love, all mixed together. I'm going to go now, I said quietly. I've said what I came to say. I hope you and Marcus have a wonderful life together. I hope you're happy. I turned to walk away, but Emma's voice stopped me. Mom, wait. I turned back. She was standing now, still crying, the small wrapped box clutched in her hands. She started to speak, then stopped, seemingly unable to find the words. Marcus stood up and put his arm around her. For a moment I thought he was going to tell me to leave, ask security to escort me out, protect his new wife from her embarrassing mother. Instead he spoke directly to me, his voice gentle and respectful. Mrs. Turner, would you like to sit down? We saved a chair at our table just in case. The words hit me like a physical blow. They had saved a chair for me. Even after excluding me from everything else, some part of them, maybe Marcus, maybe Emma, maybe both, had hoped I might somehow appear. I looked at Emma, searching her face for confirmation, for some sign of what she wanted me to do. Please, Mom, she whispered. Please stay. The entire room seemed to exhale at once as the tension broke. I could hear people starting to murmur again, the shock wearing off, normal conversation slowly resuming. I walked around the table to where Marcus was pulling out a chair for me. The chair they had saved, right between Emma and Linda. As I sat down, Emma immediately grabbed my hand. Mom, I'm so sorry, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I squeezed her hand, feeling 25 years of love and hurt and hope flowing between us. We have a lot to talk about, I said quietly. But not here, not now. Today is your wedding day. Let's make sure it's beautiful. Over the next few hours, something magical happened. The awkwardness and shock of my arrival gradually faded as the celebration continued. Emma introduced me to Marcus's parents, who were gracious and welcoming once they understood the situation. I danced with Marcus, welcoming him officially to our family. I met Emma's friends, many of whom remembered me from her childhood and seemed genuinely happy to see me. Most importantly, I danced with Emma. When the band played Sunrise, Sunset, the song I used to sing to her when she was little, she took my hand and led me to the dance floor. I remember, she whispered as we swayed together. I remember you singing this to me. I never stopped, I whispered back. Even when you grew up and moved away, I never stopped singing it. I never stopped hoping for moments like this. We danced in silence for a while, both of us crying again, but different tears this time. Healing tears. I was scared, she said finally. I was scared that if I invited you, you'd try to take over, make it about us instead of about Marcus and me. I was scared that his parents would judge me for coming from a different kind of family. And I was scared that you were ashamed of me, I replied. Scared that I wasn't good enough for your new life. You raised me, Mom. Everything good about me came from you. How could I ever be ashamed of that? Then why exclude me? Why make me feel like I didn't matter anymore? She was quiet for a long moment, thinking about how to answer. Because it was easier, she said finally. Because including you meant dealing with complicated emotions and having difficult conversations and facing the fact that I've been pulling away from you for years. It meant acknowledging that I've hurt you, that I've been selfish and thoughtless. Why have you been pulling away? Because loving you is terrifying, she said, the words coming out in a rush. Because you gave up everything for me, and that's a huge responsibility. Because I could never love anyone the way you love me, and that makes me feel guilty. Because staying close to you means staying connected to a part of myself that I've been trying to outgrow. The honesty of her answer took my breath away. This was the most real conversation we'd had in years. Emma, I never wanted you to feel guilty about my choices. I made those sacrifices because I wanted to, because seeing you succeed was worth more to me than anything I gave up. But that's the problem, Mom. When someone loves you that much, that completely, it's overwhelming. It makes you feel like you can never be good enough, like you can never deserve that level of devotion. I understood then. I had loved her so intensely, so completely, that it had become a burden instead of a gift. My unconditional love had made her feel conditionally worthy. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry I made my love feel like a weight instead of a wings. I'm sorry I let it push me away instead of bringing me closer. The song was ending, but neither of us wanted the dance to stop. This moment of honesty and connection was too precious to lose. What happens now? I asked. Now we figure out how to have a relationship where we're both adults. Where you're not just my mother, and I'm not just your daughter. Where we can love each other without guilt or fear or resentment. I'd like that, I said. I'd like that very much. As the song ended and we walked back to the table, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Hope that Emma and I could rebuild our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect, instead of obligation. Hope that I could learn to love her in a way that felt supportive instead of overwhelming. Hope that she could learn to receive my love without feeling guilty about it. The rest of the reception was everything I had dreamed it would be. I got to see Emma cut her cake, toss her bouquet, dance with her new husband. I got to meet extended members of Marcus's family and share stories about Emma's childhood. I got to feel like a proud mother celebrating her daughter's happiness instead of an outsider looking in. When it came time for the traditional mother-son dance, Marcus approached me instead of his own mother. Would you do me the honor? He asked, extending his hand. What about your mother? I already danced with her earlier, but I haven't danced with Emma's mother yet, and that seems like something I should do on my wedding day. As we danced, he spoke quietly so no one else could hear. I want you to know that excluding you wasn't my idea. I told Emma from the beginning that we should invite you, that it didn't seem right to have a wedding without the bride's mother there. What did she say? She said it was complicated, that you two had a difficult relationship, that she was afraid you'd be hurt or uncomfortable around my family. He paused. I should have pushed harder. I should have insisted. It's not your fault, Marcus. Emma and I created this dynamic long before you came along. We're going to have to be the ones to fix it. But I want you to know that you'll always be welcome in our home, in our lives. Emma loves you more than she knows how to express. Sometimes people hurt the people they love most because they feel safest with them. His words gave me hope that Emma had chosen a partner who understood the importance of family, even complicated family relationships. As the evening wound down and guests started to leave, Emma came to find me. Mom, would you like to come to brunch tomorrow? Marcus and I are having a small gathering with immediate family before we leave for our honeymoon. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. You're my mother. I want you there. The next morning I drove to Emma and Marcus's apartment for the first time. It was beautiful, modern and sophisticated, the kind of place I would never feel comfortable living in but was proud that my daughter could afford. The brunch was small, just Marcus's parents, his sister and her husband, Emma, Marcus, and me. It was the first time I'd had a real conversation with Marcus's family, and I was surprised by how warm and welcoming they were. Marcus's mother, Patricia, pulled me aside while the others were talking. "I want to apologize," she said quietly. "I had no idea you hadn't been invited to the wedding. If I had known, I would have said something to Emma. It's not your fault. This was between Emma and me. Still, as a mother myself, I can't imagine how painful that must have been. You raised a wonderful daughter. You should be very proud." "Thank you. That means a lot. Marcus has told us so many stories about Emma's childhood, about how hard you worked to give her opportunities. We're grateful for everything you did to help shape her into the woman she is today." For the first time in years, I felt truly valued, not just as Emma's mother, but as a person in my own right. As I was getting ready to leave, Emma walked me to my car. "Mom, I want you to know that what happened yesterday, you showing up, everything you said, it was exactly what I needed to hear. Even though it was embarrassing, especially because it was embarrassing, I needed to see how much I had hurt you. I needed to face the consequences of my choices. And I needed everyone else to see how much you love me." She handed me a small envelope. "What's this?" "Pictures from the wedding. The photographer got some beautiful shots of us dancing together, of you and Marcus, of you with his parents. I want you to have them." I opened the envelope and saw myself in those moments, smiling, laughing, looking genuinely happy, looking like a mother celebrating her daughter's wedding, which is exactly what I was. "Thank you," I said, tears forming in my eyes again. "These are precious. Mom, I want us to start over. I want us to figure out how to have a relationship that works for both of us. Will you be patient with me while I figure out how to do that?" "Of course, sweetheart. We have all the time in the world." As I drove home that Sunday afternoon, I reflected on everything that had happened in the past 48 hours. I had gone from being a mother excluded from her daughter's wedding to being a welcomed member of a new extended family. I had gone from feeling forgotten and discarded to feeling valued and loved. The transformation hadn't happened because I had caused a scene or demanded attention. It had happened because I had been brave enough to show up, honest enough to express my feelings, and loving enough to put Emma's happiness above my own hurt. Over the following months, Emma and I slowly rebuilt our relationship. We started having regular phone calls. Not the rushed, obligatory calls of the past, but real conversations about our lives, our feelings, our hopes and dreams. She started including me in her plans, asking for my advice, sharing details about her marriage and her work. Most importantly, we started setting healthy boundaries. I learned to respect her privacy and her autonomy, to offer support without trying to control outcomes. She learned to receive my love without feeling guilty about it, to share her life with me without feeling obligated to manage my emotions. Marcus became a true son-in-law, someone I could talk to and laugh with and genuinely care about. His family embraced me as part of their extended family, including me in holiday celebrations and special occasions. 6 months after the wedding, Emma called me with news. "Mom, Marcus and I are thinking about buying a house." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Have you started looking?" "We have, actually. And we found one we really love. It has a beautiful guest suite with its own entrance and a little garden. We were wondering, would you consider moving in with us?" The question caught me completely off guard. "Move in with you?" "Not like roommates or anything. You'd have your own space, your own independence. But we'd be close enough to really be family again. Marcus and I talked about it and we both think it would be wonderful." "Are you sure? I don't want to be a burden." "Mom, you could never be a burden. You're my mother. I want you to be part of our daily life, not just someone we see on holidays." "What changed your mind?" "Seeing how much joy you brought to our wedding reception just by being there. Realizing that I've been depriving myself of your love and support because I was afraid of it. Understanding that having you close doesn't make me weak or dependent. It makes me lucky." I said yes, of course. How could I not? We moved in together 6 months later, and it has been everything Emma promised and more. I have my own beautiful space where I can be independent and private when I want to be. But I also get to see Emma and Marcus regularly, to be part of their daily lives in small but meaningful ways. I cook dinner for them sometimes when they've had long days at work. Emma comes to my suite in the evenings sometimes just to talk, the way she used to when she was young. Marcus and I have developed our own relationship. He asks for my advice about things, includes me in his conversations about work and life. Most importantly, Emma and I have learned to love each other as adults. She no longer feels suffocated by my devotion, and I no longer feel rejected by her independence. We've found a balance that works for both of us. Looking back on that Tuesday morning when I saw her wedding photo on Facebook, I'm grateful for the pain that forced me to act. If I hadn't been brave enough to show up uninvited to her reception, if I hadn't been willing to risk embarrassment and rejection to claim my place in her life, we might have drifted apart completely. Instead, we're closer now than we've ever been. Not the complicated, guilt-ridden closeness of her childhood, but the chosen, intentional closeness of two women who have learned to love each other well. Emma is pregnant now with her first child, my first grandchild. She asked me to be in the delivery room with her when the time comes. She wants me to help her learn to be a mother, the way I learned to be one, through love and trial and error and endless devotion. I want to love my child the way you loved me, she told me recently. But I also want to love them the way you love me now, without guilt or obligation or fear. You will, I told her. You'll love them perfectly, just like I loved you perfectly, even when it didn't feel perfect. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is showing up when we're not wanted, speaking our truth when it's uncomfortable, and loving someone enough to fight for the relationship, even when they've given up on it. I crashed my daughter's wedding, and it saved our relationship. I became the uninvited guest who reminded everyone what unconditional love looks like. And in doing so, I didn't just reclaim my place in Emma's life. I helped her reclaim her place in mine. The little girl who used to plan pretend weddings with her dolls and promised that I'd be the most important person at her real wedding was still there inside the woman who thought she had outgrown her need for her mother's love. She just needed to be reminded that some bonds are too strong to break, even when we try our hardest to sever them. And sometimes the most powerful thing a mother can do is show up uninvited and remind her child that love doesn't require an invitation. It just requires courage.